Students Live. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And as always, we want you to interact with each other in the chat box over there on this side of me, whichever side it is. We're going to take a short 2-week break from our series on Jesus. And we're going to really kind of talk through some of the big issues that we're facing, not only over the past week as a country, but really just the entirety of our country. And so we're going to hear some personal stories from people over the next couple weeks, and you may be challenged, you may be encouraged to hear from them, and they're going to offer some experience, and they're going to offer a challenge and encouragement to you, and I hope that you will listen closely. So our first interview this week comes from one of our church members, and so we're going to transition to the interview, so check this out. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us here for a special discussion about everything going on in our country. And I'm sitting here with Melissa. If you don't know who she is a member of our church. But I'm going to let her introduce herself. Melissa, why don't you tell the people who you are?
Okay. Melissa Griffith, and I was church since 2011 when I moved back to Jacksonville. You from the second service. I'm a member of worship and also for the mother of Alt, aka AJ, or aka KJ Griffith, that are here in the youth, and I'm in the worship choir as well in the first service. I've also done some work with the nursery and the children. So I've been around the church for a while.
So the reason I asked Melissa to come and speak to us tonight is because, with everything going on in our world with, really just flat out evil, I don't know another word to put it, racism and prejudice and hatefulness towards people of different cultures and backgrounds. So Melissa has experienced this in her own life. Melissa was married to a person of a different culture and a different race, and she's also, as she said, the mother of Alta and Kaya. They're biracial teenagers here in Jacksonville. So I just asked her to come and just share her experience with you, so you can hear a real life story of living in that kind of world. And so you can kind of share your experience with that, and then we'll go to the next question.
Okay. Well, I grew up I was born actually here in Jacksonville. My dad was Air Force, and when he got out of the Air Force, he got a job at Arkansas Nuclear One, and he moved back to where he grew up, which was a small town in the Arkansas River Valley, which is named Coal Hill. Some people may have heard of it. Most people probably have not, but it's located along Highway 64 between Clarksville and Ozark. It has probably less than 500 people. Wow. And the school that I went to, my graduating class was 36 people. It's an all-white community. So, and actually that whole area, there's not a whole lot of diversity. So I grew up in an area where, we didn't see a lot of diversity unless you went further down, maybe an hour, like toward Fort Smith or into Oklahoma, up toward Fayetteville. If you came closer to Russellville or Little Rock, then you may have come closer to some diversity. So I didn't experience more cultures until I went to college. And I went to University of the Ozarks, which is there in Clarksville. They had a Walton Scholar program, and they had Central American students from China, Asia, just different countries. And so for the first time, I got to experience other cultures, other races, other backgrounds, and I was a member of the touring choir, and so I embraced that, and I tried to get to know the other cultures and know more about them. And at first it was a culture shock because I was just like, whoa, these people are so different from me. But as I got to know them, I was, wow, I could really learn some things from these people that are different from me. And we're still friends. I mean, I still reach out to them on Facebook, and a lot of them have gone back to their own country and have started great careers. Some of them are international opera stars. I mean, there's just different things that they're doing now that are wonderful. But I'm grateful for that experience, having to meet them. But I also, after that, I went to UCA. And that is when I really got the culture shock. And that's when I actually met my husband. He was Air Force, military police, and he had gotten out of the Air Force and was getting ready to move to Washington State. And I was in my last year of college. I was a RA. My best friend was biracial. Her mother was Korean, her dad was black. So I got a real, I guess, culture shock there. But I kind of fought it because when he asked me out, I kind of fought it because I was like, ooh, I don't know how this is going to go over with my parents. And he was much older than me. He was almost 9 years older than me. And I met him at a nightclub. So I didn't know if that was going to go over well at all. But I decided to give him a chance and go out with him, and he made dinner for me. Actually, you know, he seemed really nice, and my dad had always told me if someone cares about you, then they'll cook for you, they'll do nice things for you. He came and visited me in the dormitory. And then when he moved away, he kept in touch, sent me cards, you know, calling cards, told me to call him collect. When I moved back home for the summer, he started calling me. He called me. I didn't have to call him. He told me what time he was going to call me. Then he asked me to move to Washington State with him, and I was like, you know, my dad always tells me if somebody really cares about you, then they'll ask you to go with them when they leave. And I was like, this guy really likes me. He really cares about me. And I struggled with it because I had one more year of college left. And so I just prayed about it, and I made the choice to go to Washington State, and we ended up getting married. And it was something that I got the push and pull from some relatives, mainly my older relatives, like my grandparents. Why are you doing this? But we ended up getting married, and then we eventually moved back here. And then I had the kids. Unfortunately, the marriage didn't work out, and I became a single parent. I started trying to break off into my own career and made it work. I started working in retail management, marketing, and leasing, and had a really good career going. We had what I would call split custody. He had them 1 week, and I had them 1 week. And then circumstances happened where I ended up with full custody. And I had to change what I was doing, and my whole life was turned upside down, and I had to figure out, what am I going to do? Now I have 2 kids by myself. So that's kind of what happened, and then I had to make a choice, you know, how am I going to raise these kids? You know, I thought that they were going to get some of his culture and my culture, but now I've got me full time. So that's when my friends came. My friends of different races and different backgrounds came in to help, and they've kind of mentored me. And my best friend, who from college, lives in Florida. She still comes back to visit, and she, chimes in and tells me different things. So I feel like it's a village that we all work together. But it's hard to be a single parent, and it's hard to have two teenagers that are so close together. It's just difficult sometimes. And when it's kind of thrown at you, and you're moving to a new community. So in the middle of that, I had moved back to Jacksonville. And Lauren's mom was the one who invited me to this church. And I feel like that was a blessing, because then I found my family, my other family.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like things happen for a reason. And that was God working in my life to bring us here.
Yeah.
So I feel like that happened for a reason, for us to be here and for us to meet everyone in this church and for us to be welcomed in. And I feel like that's what happened when we got here and when we came.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
To make a long story kind of somewhat short.
As you said, you've experienced many different cultures from different countries, not just here in America, but people from literally across the world, which is really cool. So with everything kind of going on with in our country, what's something that you want the students to know about the current events of everything going on in our world?
One thing that I would say is it's okay for someone to be different. And not everyone, we're not all made from a cookie cutter type world. We're all individuals. Not everyone, even twins, identical twins are not the same. We're all unique in our own way. So you may look the same as someone else, but you're not exactly the same, even if you're identical. So your first impression of someone does not mean that's exactly how they are. So it's important to actually take the time to get to know that person instead of using your first impression. One thing that I've learned over the years is my dad has always told me that I never meet a stranger, and I'm just that way. I was always that kid that if there was a new student at school, I would go and sit with them at lunch and get to know them and welcome them, make them feel like they weren't alone. And I'm still that way. If there's a new person at work, I'm the person that goes up and introduces myself to them and gets to know them and tries to welcome them in. Just reach out to people that may not be like you. Get to know other cultures. It's kind of like what you were saying on Sunday with the Muslims. Getting to know more about reaching out to them, because they may not even know their own religion. You seem to know more about their religion than they do. So it's reaching out to them. And right now, I've kind of been voluntold that I have to work for unemployment insurance on the hotline. And I talk to different types of people every day. And they're frustrated. When they call me, they're mad because, one, they don't have a job. They don't know what their future holds. But I just try to comfort them and let them know it's going to be okay. Let me know what your frustration is and let me see if I can help you. And I talk to people of different backgrounds. Some of those people have never had to file for unemployment in their life. Some of them have been on unemployment many times. So you know, you just have to listen and understand, and it's that way with anyone. It doesn't matter what our background is, what our skin looks like. If we play sports, if we're the band nerd, you know, everyone is a person. We all bleed.
Yeah.
We're all individuals.
Yeah, that's good. Always wanting to seek to understand people's background and people's differences is a good thing. Yeah, I think that's good. So the last kind of question that I want to ask you is if you can give the students during this time one piece of encouragement or one kind of challenge to kind of how to navigate and how to process and think through things going on in our country, what encouragement or what challenge would you give them?
My challenge is to look inside your heart, and change begins with you. Because what is going on now has been going on for generations. And not everything is because it's what you believe. It may have been what you've been told. It may have been what your grandparents were taught, you know. For example, my grandmother, she has Alzheimer's, but she used to call my kids her colored grandkids. And my dad told her, they're not your colored grandkids, they're your grandkids. And he corrected her, and she was like, well, I've always been told colored. And that's something that she was taught from an early age. And when we're born, we're not born to see different colors. That's something that we learn. So we have to look deep down inside ourselves, and we have to think, is this something that I've been taught, or is this something that is in my heart? You know, is this person a person, or is it, you know, but change has to begin with us. And it's the same way with religion. You know, you have to look deep down inside yourself and want to change. And so it's that way with what's going on in our country right now. So you have to decide change has to start with me. And you have to make that change, and you have to make that change going forward with the next generation and continue that change. And so my challenge is look around in the community. The community that we live in, not everybody looks like us. Even in our neighborhood, in the neighborhood that surrounds the church, this whole neighborhood does not look like you and me. And, you know, one of the things that I would like to challenge the youth or even the congregation is to reach out to the community, because the community of this town, this area, does not look like us. And for us to reach out, we need to be more open-minded, and we need to go out and reach our community, not just the people that we think look like us or need to hear the message. Everyone in our community needs to hear the message. And so that's my challenge. And like Maya, my friend Maya, I was in the stall at Sonic and invited her to church. It was that simple. And she was like, what time?
Yeah.
I never thought it was going to be that easy.
Mm-hmm.
I still talked to her, heard from her yesterday. Mm-hmm. And you never know where that conversation is going to lead. You just have to be brave enough to have it.
Yeah.
So that's my challenge. Have that conversation. Make a new friend. Invite that friend to church. Have that difficult conversation. Make those friends that someone who you don't think would be open to have a conversation invite them to church. Say, hey, you go to church? We're having this, this topic right now. You might be open to hear about it, or we're having this event, or let them know, hey, I'm open. My heart is open. You might be different, but I'm open to you. And so make that change in your heart. Keep it going forward.
That's good. That's what I love a lot about Jacksonville when I go to the schools. You just see so many different people from different skin colors, home lives, backgrounds, like all there. It's just really awesome place to be. So thank you for sharing from your heart, and thank you for challenging our students to look inside themselves and be the change that we want going forward. If you have questions for Melissa and you want to reach out to her, you can either find her at church on Sunday. She's usually on the stage singing or doing the tambourine. Or if you want to, you can get with me, and I can get you in touch with Melissa if you have questions for her regarding things she said or anything else like that. So that concludes this interview, and thank you again for sharing. So that's it. It was good to talk with Melissa, just listening to her experience and getting to talk to her off the camera, just to really hear some things that she has gone through in her life to help her better understand people from different cultures and from different countries, and just to be able to relate to them and talk with them, and to encourage them to pursue their passions in their life. The way that I want to close our time together is I want to share you a story from Scripture that I think is very relevant to help us deal with what's going on in our country right now. This is a parable that I'm sure that you are familiar with. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan. Here's what Jesus said. A man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers. They stripped him, beat him up, and fled, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the road. When he saw him, he passed by on the other side. In the same way, a Levite, when he arrived at the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan on his journey came up to him, and when he saw the man, he had compassion. He went over to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on olive oil and wine. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii, gave them to the innkeeper, and said, "Take care of him. When I come back, I'll reimburse you for whatever extra you spend." Which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The one who showed mercy to him, he said. Then Jesus told him, "Go and do the same." So here in this story, we have a guy, probably a Jew, leaving from Jerusalem, going to Jericho, another city there in Israel. And some robbers, probably Jews as well, come and they beat the dude up, strip him down, and leave him half dead on the side of the road. And then we see a couple people come by him. They see a priest comes, which is, again, a Jew, comes, and he sees the person on the side of the road half beaten up and goes the other way. And then we see a Levite, another Jew, see the guy on the side of the road. He sees them, and he crosses on the side of the street and walks past them and ignores them. And then we see a Samaritan. Now, Samaritans and the Jews hated each other. Hated, all right? Very much hated each other. And what this Samaritan does is very radical. He goes and he bandages up the Jew sitting there on the road half dead, carries him or puts him on a donkey and takes him to the inn at the nearby city, and pays for his hotel room and pays for any other expense that this guy might kind of experience. And then Jesus asked the question, which of these 3 people takes care or shows mercy to this person that was beaten up, either for his possessions or maybe for his ethnicity or etc. We don't really know why he got beat up. He's got beat up. And the guy says, the Samaritan, which this story is a radical story because the Samaritan did not like the Jews, and the Jews did not like the Samaritans. And so for a Samaritan, of all people, to show compassion on this Jew and to take care of him and pay for his expenses and get him some help was a big deal. And so there are three types of people in this story. There's ones who promote and show violence towards other people. There is the second group, which is those who ignore this injustice and ignore this type of people. And then there's the people who show compassion toward even their worst enemy. And so I want to ask you, as we kind of wrap up our time together, which are you? Are you someone who promotes and engages in violence against people that maybe don't look like you or maybe don't act like you? Are you someone that ignores people that don't look like you or act like you? Or are you someone who reaches out to people that don't look like you and show compassion and love toward everyone around you? And so just as Jesus asked this person who asked about their neighbor, I ask you, are you a violent promoter? Are you an ignorer? Or are you someone who shows compassion and mercy? And so what we're going to do, we're going to end our time together by saying this. If you want to be a part of a small group and talk deeper in this story, I want you to comment over here in the chat box I'm in. And if you want to lead a small group, I want you to write the words, I will lead. And we can talk further in a smaller group of people about how we can be in this last group here, people who reach out to other people that don't look like them, people who show compassion toward all people, and people who are action-oriented and love-oriented towards all people. So type over here, I'm in. Type over here, I will lead, and we will get you in a Connect group. So thank you again for joining us for Student Life. Hope that you have, hope you've learned some good things tonight, and I hope that you'll join a small group. And so I'm going to pray for us, and then I'll pop up and I will give you more instruction. Heavenly Father, God, you're a good God, and we thank you so much for this example of the Samaritan here in your word, that show compassion towards someone that he was supposed to hate, that he was probably told to hate, but instead he showed compassion and love this person. So God, let us be people who love all people and show compassion toward all people, whether they look like us or don't. Let's be people who would see the image of God in all people and to love all people. And thank you for your Son Jesus down on the cross for our sins, so that we can be transformed by the gospel for all the nations. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, hey everyone. Thank you for joining us here tonight. Get a light. And I just want to thank you for joining us tonight on Students Live. A couple of announcements for us. Number one, this Sunday we'll be back at 10 a.m. for our service time at church. So come on out and join us if you feel welcome, or not welcome, sorry, that's not the right word. If you feel comfortable coming and joining us at the building, you're more than welcome to come. If you don't feel comfortable, 11 o'clock the service will go out through a text and an email. Also, the second thing is this Sunday night, Chapter 2 of Stop Asking Jesus into Your Heart book study. If you're not part of the book study and you want to be, let me know and we'll get you a book. Or you can just come and listen to the discussion. And there's some questions that you don't have to actually read to be able to answer, so come on out anyway. So, with that being said, the winner of the random drawing tonight is Keely. So congratulations, Keely. Good job for commenting that you like the Chick-fil-A sauce. And then lastly, the top three places are Sarah, Keely, and Wyatt. And so keep up the good work, everybody, and hope you had a good, encouraging night. And we'll see you on